And welcome back to the Financially Simple Experience. I'm Justin. Today in studio with me is Mr. Jeremy LaDuke. How are you, brother?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, Justin.
Yeah. You know, last year we saw some amazing things, and I can't help but notice or think that Epic 9 Marketing, your business, must have experienced some amazing challenges, observations. Maybe you overcome some things. Let's start off with, how did last year treat your business?
So, like most other businesses, we definitely took a hit, especially with our marketing clients. In general, it seems like when budgets get crunched a little bit, marketing can be one of the first things that goes. We don't recommend that. We don't think it's necessarily smart, but it's just what happens. I think people get afraid, and that seems expendable to them. So that we lost some business on that side of things, but we pivoted, and we actually started another section of our business called Epic Virtual Events, and we ran that from about June of last year till this June.
Well, I want to spend some time talking about Epic Virtual Events, but let me kind of lay the groundwork here. So, friends, Jeremy is a business owner, just like me, just like you. He knows what it's like to be in the trenches. We talked about employees. We talked about various things that we business owners face on a day in, day out. But in the marketing world, which is where you specialize, marketing efforts for business owners, I know that I personally had to go do more live events last year than I've ever done before through various technologies. I noticed that my speaking gigs that I had scheduled, I was going to be presenting to people nationally, those got rescheduled and they became Zoom events. But you're talking about now, y'all created a virtual audience, a virtual platform, virtual stage. How did that work? How did it come about?
Well, we found a software that was a little more dynamic than Zoom, and it was probably the most dynamic software that was available at the time. And it allowed us to create virtual experiences that, as much as you can make a virtual experience feel like an in-person experience, it made us. It allowed us to create these experiences where people could move around freely, mingle in small groups, but also have a large presentation with PowerPoints and your typical Zoom type of or webinar type of experience as well.
How do you incorporate that into a marketing plan? So let me set the stage as you think about that. You know, friends, I often talk about that one of the key drivers to net worth, or one of the key drivers to business value, is marketing. We need to have a good marketing plan that identifies who the target persona is, where they're located, how their spending habits are, what exactly we're going to have to teach them or talk to them or interact with them to get them to the door before we could even try to convince them that, hey, we're the solution to their problems. So as I'm thinking about small business owners, Jeremy, I can't help but think that some sort of virtual event system like you're referring to could add extreme value to their business. How would you incorporate that into a current marketing plan, though?
That's a great question. I would say it had a lot more value last year. I don't know. It's hard to say where it's going in the next year or so. We may go back to a lot of virtual events. I'm hoping not, but we'll see. But I would say if your target market is online, if they're comfortably being online, if they're not, they don't have Zoom fatigue at this point, right, which I think that's what we're running into.
They call it Zoom purgatory.
Yes, yeah. If they're not there, then there are a lot of opportunities for virtual events that are a lot cheaper and more efficient than in-person events. We even hosted a trade show. That was one of the first events that we did. We hosted a trade show online where we had businesses from all over East Tennessee online, and they each had their own booth that people could go and mingle and video chat with them. So there's some opportunity there that, in person, if we had done that in person, it would have been $30,000, $40,000, $50,000.
Right.
Online, it was, just a fraction of that.
Wow. So if I'm going to pour dollars into something, like if I were going to hire an employee, I have a metric that I can determine if the employee is profitable for me. If I'm going to buy a piece of equipment, I know that equipment is going to turn out X number of dollars to make it profitable for me. Marketing, though, is one of those things that's like nebulous, like pie in the sky. It's like this make-believe world that if I could throw dollars at it, that maybe, just maybe, I could get a return on my investment. Whenever you're talking with a business owner, and let's deal with it two different phases. Let's talk about the one who maybe has never marketed before for the first time. How do you coach them? What wisdom do you share with them on the importance of marketing holistically versus just throwing dollars at some sort of a campaign?
It's a great question. And it's a common thing we hear, how do we know we're getting what we're putting into it, right? And there's different levels of that. I would say one of the biggest levels of that is more of that brand awareness. It's very hard to measure, right? You throw a billboard out there, if you guys had a billboard out in the road, no one's going to drive by that billboard and say, I need to call Justin right now. And, and they're going to call you right off that billboard. And so things like that are very hard to measure, especially in a short period of time. Other things are, we can measure them down to the dollar. If you've got an e-commerce store, we can measure that advertising, all day long down to the dollar. You spent, $10 on Google Ads, you made $100 on a sale. And we can even track phone calls and everything. So there's a lot of measurable aspects of marketing if you're doing it right. And I would say if you're not measuring in some form or fashion, you're not doing it right.
Well, that kind of sets up the second question then. If we're dealing with an existing business, somebody who already has a marketing budget in place, seeing some growth, but it doesn't seem like it's effective. How would you analyze, or how would you recommend that somebody talking about marketing analyze that particular spend to see if it is efficient?
It's a great question. So, if you're spending any money on digital ads whatsoever, making sure that you're tracking that through, that you have access. You'd be surprised how many people don't have access to their Google Ads account. They're paying someone to do it, but they have no idea what's going on in that Google Ads account. Right. I would say make sure you have access to that. Make sure you have access to all of your tracking data. But then, just look at the numbers. Are you making more money, and can you attribute that back to any of this marketing that you're doing?
Let's talk about numbers then, because and now we're a unique business here. We track something to the tune of about 70 to 80 different KPIs within our business.
That's great.
What should business owners truly track, though? We're a little extreme. Yeah. Not everybody's going to do that. Yeah. But what are some of the most common goals then that business owners would have maybe in common?
Sure.
Is it number of followers? Is it click-through rate? What are some of the most common?
I would say, it just goes back to sales, right? It's money in your bank. Different products that you're selling, something that's very specific, measurable, a SMART goal, for instance, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time bound, right? So it can go to products, it can go to new customers, it can go to a certain demographic of customers. But it's when you're talking about marketing, one of the things I think at the core that you're ultimately wanting to do is sell more of your services or your business, or possibly sell bigger products or get bigger clients, measuring those things that are actually bringing money into your bank. Now, along the way, you can measure other things like, clicks on your Facebook page, that sort of stuff. We often, people come to us sometimes with this dream of going viral, right? Of having something that just gets thousands and thousands of views on TikTok or Facebook or whatever, or millions really. But that doesn't necessarily translate into making your business better. Okay. So there are some goals that people are shooting for that don't really do anything for your business.
So let's dive deep now, because we've been setting the stage on the basic marketing questions that everybody has to know. And listeners, I realize at this point, like, dude, Justin, come on, get to the meat and potatoes. So let's go deeper here, okay? I believe that our economy at some point in the next decade, I don't know when that's going to be. I broke my crystal ball, man. And so I can't see exactly when this is going to happen. But I believe somewhere in the next decade, we're going to see a recession hit our economy. And you made a statement earlier that I want to pivot back onto, and that was that during tough times, people cancel marketing. When the time to market is in the recession. Yeah. The time to market is not oftentimes now, whenever you're in the heydays. Now, that doesn't mean to quit. That's not what I'm saying. But I'd like your professional opinion on why you made the statement that whenever bad times happen, you're the first to go. We understand why, but why is that the wrong move business owners are making?
So I think it goes to just human behavior, right? When probably 75% of the people in your industry pulling back and getting scared and going into survival mode. And so that's one of the things about marketing is always look for an opportunity. There's always going to be an opportunity out there for you to make an impact, grab some attention, and get in front of people.
I think if you can hone in who exactly is your picture perfect, best, most profitable client that brings you joy in your business, who is that individual, where are they located, what is it they like, what are their characteristics of behavior. Now, we got to go ahead and start dripping them, letting them see our brand, whatever it may be, now when times are good. But we should be squirreling some cash back. Again, I'm not going to get too much into finances today, but we should squirrel some cash back, because just as soon as a recession, a pullback, a trend moves, man, step on the gas, because of what you just said. The average business owner is now looking at levers because they haven't prepared their business for valuation or for value acceleration. So now they're looking at, what can I do to cut expenses? And marketing takes sometimes 6, 8, 9, 12 months. And you really don't know it's working until you stop sometimes. So at that point, man, hammer into it. Am I saying basically the same thing you just said?
Yeah.
We're saying the same thing, that we need to be crystal clear who we're going after. We need to know our cost of acquisition, various things, various metrics that you and I would track within our respective business clients. But now is the time to start getting prepared, created massive value, and set yourself apart from the competition. I was reading, you may love this statement, I was reading about the experience of Walmart, Sam Walton. At the time when Sam Walton started his business out of Arkansas, Sears had the Sears Tower. It was huge. It was almost, however many floors that particular tower is. Sears had more money. They had more lending capacity. They had so much more available to them than Sam Walton did, who created Walmart. What Sam did is he pushed through in troubling times and grew a business out of hard times. Whereas Sears took a more conservative approach. We can look at a number of businesses like that. So Jeremy, whenever we're talking through this, we're having a great time right now in business. We talked about, nailing down our personas. We talked about, hammering through whenever we go through a session. I'm going to ask the last question here, because this is the one that I get all the time. I would like to know your particular opinion on it. How much money should I allocate out of my business toward marketing?
It's a great question. Yes, and we probably ask people what their budgets are more than they ask us, because most business owners that we run into don't want to spend a lot, right? And it's understandable, right? But people have come to us and say, I want to grow by 25% this year, and I want to spend $100 a month on advertising, and we just say that's impossible. You just can't. So I would say this: start with your goal, create a plan to get there, and then what's that plan entail? Figure out can you realistically follow that plan and spend what you need to spend to get there. Let your goals and your marketing plan determine what you need to spend. Now, there will be times when you create that marketing plan, you say, we just can't do that this year. So then you got to go back and look, okay, what's a more realistic goal to choose? But yeah, it's one of those questions. It varies from business to business. There is no standard answer.
No standard answer. Yeah, so I try to standardize things, and oftentimes I get myself in trouble. I do. I was talking to a dental person the other day, and in the dental field, they typically recommend 7%. I'm like, dude, if you want to hammer it out, you're going to just have to spend 20% in order to accomplish what you want to accomplish. I'm of the opinion in the financial world, it should be 20%. You realize the average financial person only spends about 2% of their total income in marketing?
I could see that.
It's ridiculous. And therefore, they wonder why they don't grow. They wonder why their business is not preparing and helping as many people as possible. So we talked a lot about business, but you're a family guy with 4 teenagers? Is that correct?
Yeah. It says 4 teenagers, 1 has fur. So
okay.
So we've got a fur child as well. So standard poodle. But yes, 3 human teenagers. And yeah, it's fun, and it's being a parent, especially to teenagers. It's different than when they were 8, 9, 10 years old. What about yourself?
Well, so I have 3 kids. A 16-year-old right now. I'm teaching her to drive, which I've got more gray hair now, Jeremy, than I can.
My daughter just turned 16 this last
year.
So
you're experiencing it then.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Have you found yourself praying as you're driving down the interstate, Lord, just take the wheel? I started playing the Carrie Underwood.
She's actually a very good driver. When she was first learning, there was a couple of opportunities to merge, not an interstate merge, but more of highway merging, where there's a little bit more traffic and everything. I thought I was going to die.
Yes.
So there's that. But I think it's more of, whenever she goes off on her own now, it's just, hoping and making sure she gets back home safe. So, it's a different world.
So in our business here, we focus on helping Frazzled Frank.
Okay.
You and me, we're Frazzled Frank. We're business owners. We have employees. We have families. We have a number of different things, and we're trying to ultimately figure out how we're going to build a business that whenever we hit a certain age, we're not going to be broke. Statistically, only about 4% of business owners are happy whenever they hit retirement, because we pour all of our blood, sweat, and tears into our businesses to drive value that we never really harness. We never really capture the value. So that's who we work with. In your world, who is the perfect client for Epic 9?
It's a business that I would say has probably 10 to 50 employees. Somewhere they've grown enough to where they've got a team, right, of folks they're working with, and has a budget for marketing. And they know that it's something marked in a line item somewhere. They have a budget for marketing. So they value it. They understand its importance, and they're willing to take the advice of an expert. We've had situations where people come in and they want to market, but then they want to control everything. Right. And it's like going to your doctor and saying, no, I that's not what I need to be prescribed. I need to be prescribed this over here. And
right.
And so that can be a frustrating experience for everybody involved. But people who are ready to market, they're ready to grow. We don't like to work with businesses that are just content, right? We want to work with businesses that they're wanting to get it. Yeah, they're wanting to go from being a one location local business to a regional brand.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So I know you guys work with individuals or business owners nationally. So where could the listeners learn more about you? How can they connect with you and follow your story, follow your business?
Sure. You can find us on our website, epic9.com. That's EPICNINE.com. And then all the socials. LinkedIn is probably our favorite place to hang out. It's my favorite place to hang out.
Why? That's interesting.
Because it's the industry we're in. We're business to business. So, honestly, like our business is not extremely exciting, and so you're not gonna follow our Facebook page every day to find the humorous video or anything. But LinkedIn is where we talk about business, and so that's kind of where we hang out. That's where I do most of my posting. Personally, I don't think I've posted on Facebook in over a year. But I scroll through. I use Marketplace a lot. I love that.
Yep. Absolutely. Well, Jeremy, thanks for joining us on the show today. And friends, do me a favor. Connect with Jeremy and go and make a comment about Days of Thunder. Did he get it right? If he didn't get it right, blow his social media up. Give him a hard time. Go check out the website, Epic 9. I tell you, he's doing some work for our firm. We're excited about it, and I knew his knowledge level could benefit you. We asked some pretty standard questions, and hopefully you understand that with what we're talking about, some of these harder points, look at where we're at in the economic cycle right now. You might want to start considering this. Hey, look, if you don't have a business advisor, reach out to the team. And until next time, I realize that life is hard. I get it. Life is hard sometimes, isn't it? Life is hard, but life is good. We're blessed people. We're blessed beyond measure, especially if you turn on the news these days. We are blessed in the United States of America beyond measure. We have so much to be grateful for, friends. Life can be frustrating and business can be frustrating. It doesn't have to be. Let's continue to make our lives at least financially simple. Y'all go out and make it a great day.